The fluorescent lights flickered overhead as Mia pushed her cleaning cart down aisle 5. The toys section always gave her the creeps, even during the day, but tonight it felt different, like the shadows were breathing with her heart. She paused near a shelf of plastic dolls. One of them turned and looked at her. She froze. The head was facing the wrong direction, its painted smile too wide too. Knowing, she blinked, thinking maybe it was her imagination. But then she heard Ida's soft whisper from the 5 end of the aisle, like a voice scraped against concrete. Mia turned slowly, her hands shaking. No one was there, just the silence and the buzzing lights and the growing sense that something was wrong. Her radio crackled, but no one spoke. She pressed the button, trying to call Jim, the security guy, but all she heard was static, followed by a long, slow breath. She let go of the radio and backed up, bumping into the shelf behind her. The dolls shook. One fell and landed face up, staring at her, its plastic eyes suddenly leaking black fluid. She ran down the aisle through the dark stockroom, past the mop bucket, toward the back office where the cameras were. Maybe she could see something, anything that explained what was happening inside the office. The screens were all black except one camera, aisle 5. The screen flickered, showing her own back frozen in front of the shelf. Only she was not there anymore. She stared at the screen. A black figure stood behind the version of her on the camera. Long arms, no face, just shadows, and it whispered her name, Mia, over and over, like it was tasting the syllables. She tried to scream, but no sound came out, her throat locked tight by fear. Door behind her creaked open slowly. She turned and saw nothing but darkness outside the office, not just shadows, real darkness that seemed to pulse and move like something alive. She stepped back, but the lights overhead went out one by one in a clicking rhythm. She grabbed the flashlight from the desk, but it flickered and died as soon as she turned it on. In the black, she could hear breathing, not hers, something slower, deeper, like it came from a creature too large to be human. She reached for the door, but her hand brushed against skin, cold, clammy, not moving, just there. Resting against her palm, she pulled back and the thing exhaled hot, rotten air across her face. Her knees buckled. She hit the floor, the flashlight rolling away, lighting up a flash of something crawling on the ceiling. It had no eyes, no bones, just limbs that moved like smoke. Mia crawled toward the hallway, using her elbows, trying not to make noise, but her breath came out in gasps, loud enough to echo. Behind her came a slow, dragging sound like nails over tile. Then a whisper, "Do you want to see where the others went?" She reached the exit, pushed the door, and burst into the cool night air. But the parking lot was wrong. All the cars were gone. The sky was too black, no stars, no moon, just the store behind her glowing red from within, like a furnace. She turned to run, but stopped. Her car was there, and someone was sitting inside. It was her, same clothes, same face, but staring straight ahead with black eyes and a stitched mouth. Then the version of her slowly turned and smiled. Inside the stitched lips, something squirmed. Mia screamed without sound as the door of her car creaked open, and the figure stepped out, holding a single plastic doll in its hand. Doll blinked and whispered again, "Come back inside. We are not done yet." The blood trail behind the crates. Mia stood frozen in the lot as the stitched mouth version of her walked closer, step by silent step, the doll in its hand twitching with each movement. She turned and bolted back toward the rear loading dock, thinking maybe, just maybe, she could lock herself inside and call for help if phones worked again. She reached the steel back door, pounded her fists on it, but it opened before she touched the handle. Wide open, no one behind it, just the dark store, breathing again like it had lungs in the walls. Her eyes scanned for movement. She picked up a crowbar from a nearby crate, the only weapon she could find, and stepped inside. The smell hit her, rotten meat, stale blood, something sickly sweet coughed, covering her mouth, but her hands felt wet. She looked down, blood smeared across her palm, but she had no cuts. It was not hers. She backed into the corner near the stack of crates and slipped on something warm. She looked. Trail of thick blood stretched across the floor, disappearing behind the toy section. It was fresh, still steaming in the cold air of the stockroom. Sudden noise shattered the silence. Plastic crunching, tiny plastic feet. Dolls. They were walking, not one, not two, dozens of them, clicking across the tile floor, their heads tilted backward. Their empty eyes locked on her one doll, opened its mouth wide, and let out a human scream. Mia dropped the crowbar and ran past the shelves, crashing into boxes, knocking over display stands. She found herself back in the seasonal aisle, now twisted and wrong, the shelves bent in strange angles, the walls too close, like the store was folding itself in. She pushed through the hanging party streamers, but they stuck to her face like skin, refusing to let go. She screamed and pulled free, her fingers scraping raw. Suddenly the lights flashed and she saw something, a girl, young, maybe 9 or 10, crouched in the corner in a torn Dollar Tree vest, her mouth sewn shut with black thread, her eyes pleading. Mia moved closer, whispering, "It is okay, I will help you." Girl pointed toward the break room. Mia hesitated, but followed her through the maze of half-melted aisles and sagging shelves. In the break room, the microwave was on, and the clock on it blinked one word: stay. She felt her phone buzz in her pocket for the first time since her shift began. She grabbed it, hands shaking. The screen cracked. One new message from unknown: "You are already dead." Before she could process it, the lights exploded above her, and the girl screamed from the hallway. Mia ran to her, but found only blood on the wall, spelling a name: Emma. She whispered it, and suddenly felt a breath on her neck. "You said you would help me." Voice of a little girl, but broken, like it came through a speaker submerged in water. Mia turned and saw Emma standing in the hallway, her body now floating, her mouth gone, just skin where it used to be. Her hands stretched forward. Mia stumbled backward, but the hallway was gone now, just endless shelves with no way out. She ran again, ducking under displays, leaping over spilled boxes of Christmas lights, everything buzzing around her. Then silence. She turned and realized she was in the toy aisle again, but it looked new, not haunted, not twisted. The shelves were clean, the floor dry. Music played softly from the speakers above. She blinked, confused, and turned. There was a mirror at the end of the aisle, and in the mirror she saw herself still, except her reflection was not copying her movements. It raised its hand and waved behind it. The shadow moved again, crawling up the wall and resting its face against the mirror. No eyes, no soul, just hunger. The lights snapped off. A single doll landed near her feet and rolled to her toes. Head spun in circles, and then it whispered with Emma's voice, "She lied to me too." Aisle of broken faces. Mia stood frozen in the dark toy aisle, the doll at her feet still spinning its head slowly, like it was winding itself up for something worse. She wanted to run, but her legs would not listen. Her breath caught somewhere between panic and disbelief. Emma's voice echoed again through the doll's tiny mouth, and it said, "You promised me help, and you lied." Suddenly, the lights turned on all at once, not with the usual flicker, but with a loud electric snap, and the entire store glowed in harsh white. But everything was wrong. Every shelf was filled with cracked porcelain faces, dolls, mannequins, Halloween masks, and all of them were turned toward her. She moved slowly through the aisle, careful not to touch anything, but the faces followed her, their eyes unblinking, their expressions frozen in horror or pain. Then one of the porcelain faces cracked open from the inside, and a human eye stared out, blinking. Once Mia stumbled backward, knocking down a shelf of discount masks. They scattered across the floor, whispering her name over and over. She ran past them toward the cleaning supplies, hoping maybe she could find a way to fight whatever this was. But even the mops looked wrong now. Their handles bent like bones, their heads dripping red liquid instead of water. A noise came from the next aisle, like something dragging its limbs across broken glass. She peeked around the corner and saw an employee crawling on all fours, his body twisted, his limbs moving the wrong way like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Was Jim. His mouth was sewn shut just like Emma, and his eyes rolled in all directions, unable to focus. He stopped when he saw her and began slamming his head into the shelf until his skull cracked open. Mia screamed and turned to run, but the floor beneath her feet melted, turning soft and sticky like flesh. She sank to her knees trying to crawl, but the floor pulsed like a heartbeat beneath her. From above, the intercom switched on and played an old lullaby, distorted like it came from a broken music box. The song played slow and out of tune, and then a voice said, "Clean up in aisle 7." She pulled herself out of the fleshy floor and found a broom sticking out from the wall as if it had grown there. She grabbed it, pulled hard, and the wall bled. Her arms now covered in something thick and black. She backed away and bumped into a mirror. It showed her face, but aged and pale, her eyes hollow, her mouth sewn shut just like the others. Suddenly, the reflection reached out of the mirror, grabbed her arm, and tried to pull her inside. She screamed and fought back, kicking the glass and breaking it into thousands of pieces. Store went dark again. When the lights returned, she was no longer alone. All around her stood mannequins in Dollar Tree uniforms, each holding a broken toy, each smiling with human teeth in. The center of them stood Emma, floating above the ground, her hair hanging down, soaked in something dark, her arms open, as if welcoming. "Mia, you left me here," she said, in a voice that shook the walls. Mia said, "I did not know. I never saw you. I never heard about you." Emma pointed behind her. There was a wall covered in missing posters, all with the same face, her face. Dozens of versions of her, all in different uniforms, with dates stretching back decades. She screamed and the mannequins screamed with her, their faces cracking open, their mouths stretching impossibly wide. Mia covered her ears and fell to the ground, but the sound got louder inside her head. The store began shaking, shelves toppling, lights bursting, the ground splitting open. From the cracks rose hands, dozens of hands, all pale and thin and trembling. They reached for her clothes, her skin, her throat. She kicked and clawed and tried to run, but the hands pulled her into the floor, into the dark, into the silence. She opened her eyes, and she was standing at the register. Daylight streamed through the front glass. The store looked normal again. Customers browsing, music playing, employees walking past her like nothing happened, but she could not move. She looked down and saw her own hands folded in front of her, wearing a green Dollar Tree vest. She was frozen like a mannequin. People passed and did not see her. She tried to scream, but her mouth did not move. She caught her reflection in the glass. Her eyes were black, and behind her stood Emma, smiling, holding a broom dripping red. The employee who never left. Mia stood at the front of the store, unable to move her arms, locked, her legs frozen, her mouth sealed by some invisible force outside. People walked past the windows, cars moved in the parking lot, and the sun shone bright, but none of it reached her. It was all distant like a memory. She could not touch her reflection, and the glass did not match her stance. It blinked when she did not. It moved its head slowly side to side, as if warning her. Then the front door opened. A girl stepped in wearing a fresh green vest, her hair tied back, nervous eyes scanning the place like she was new, like she was about to start her first shift. Tried to shout to warn her, but her body remained stiff and silent. The girl passed her and headed toward the stockroom, where the old clock was still blinking, 12, 12, 12 on repeat. The moment she crossed the line between aisles, the store changed again. The lights dimmed, the music warped into static, and the aisles bent just slightly enough to make everything look off. Mia felt her body jerk slightly, her fingers twitch, her head tilt on its own. Something was changing. Store wanted her to move again, but not to escape, to hunt. The girl reappeared, pushing a cart full of boxes, and stopped near the back. She looked around and called out, "Hello, is anyone working today?" No answer. She turned toward the security mirror above the break room, and in that curved glass, she saw Mia standing at the front, still frozen, still watching. She looked confused, then unsettled. She walked to the toy aisle, and the moment her foot touched the tile there, a whisper floated through the air. "She belongs to us now." Mia's feet took a step, her body moving without her control, each joint cracking like bones unused for centuries. She began walking through the store, past shelves that warped, past displays that shifted their contents to show broken toys, flickering lights and masks, crying blood. She wanted to stop, to scream, to cry, but inside her own mind, she was just watching, just drowning. Girl picked up a doll from the shelf, one with black button eyes and a stitched smile, and held it to the light. Its head turned, and it whispered, "Welcome." She dropped it and backed away into the cleaning aisle. Behind her, the shelves cracked open like jaws, and out crawled Emma, her skin gray, her eyes hollow, her smile stitched with something still alive. "Emma, Said I told you someone would come, the girl screamed and ran toward the break room. But the floor stretched like rubber, pulling her back with every step. Mia moved faster, her arms outstretched, her fingers long and sharp, now not human anymore. The girl turned and saw her frozen place too. Shocked to move, she whispered, "Please help me," and Mia felt something inside crack in memory, her own first shift, being alone in the back, hearing whispers that no one believed, seeing the shadow in the mirror, feeling forgotten. She screamed inside her head, no louder than ever before, and her body stopped. Emma turned toward her, eyes narrowing. "You are mine," she said, but Mia took another step toward the girl, shielding her with her own twisted body. Emma raised her hand and the store shook, walls groaning, mannequins toppling, lights swinging above. Dolls crawled from the shelves, their eyes glowing, their mouths wide open, releasing screams like sirens. Mia stood firm, the girl behind her, trembling, unable to run. Then the floor split and a deep pit opened, revealing the real heart of the store, a swirling mass of black tendrils pulsing with stolen voices. Faces floating inside, screaming. It was the source, the thing behind the hauntings, behind Emma, behind all of it. It reached for Mia, but she grabbed the crowbar from the ground and drove it into the floor. The store shrieked like a dying animal. The walls cracked, the ceiling burst, and shelves fell in waves. Mia grabbed the girl and ran toward the front door, but Emma appeared again, blocking their path, her voice now layered with thousands of others. "You cannot leave," Mia whispered back. "Yes, we can," and pushed through her. Emma screamed and shattered like glass. The door burst open and light flooded the store, real light, the sun. They collapsed outside, gasping for breath, the girl crying behind them. The store flickered one last time before going dark. Mia looked back and saw her reflection in the window. It smiled one final time, then faded. Last light. Mia sat on the curb outside the store, the sky finally real again. Cars moving normally, people walking, unaware that just minutes ago something ancient had tried to swallow them whole. Beside her, the new girl sat, shaking, her arms wrapped tight around herself, tears falling down her face, her eyes wide like she still saw the darkness inside her mind. Mia placed a hand on her shoulder, her fingers still cold, not from fear, but from whatever part of her had nearly become one with the thing in the store. They stayed there in silence until the sirens came, flashing red and blue lights. Security men, voices asking questions. But Mia did not answer, and neither did the girl, because how do you explain that the dolls screamed, that the shadows had names, that the mirrors showed lies and truths at the same time? Paramedics checked them and said mild shock, exhaustion, probably hallucination from cleaning supplies. Mia just nodded, her eyes never leaving the storefront, where the glass now showed nothing, no reflection, not even light. That night she went home and showered, scrubbing her skin raw, but the scent of blood and plastic still clung to her pores. She opened her bedroom closet and stared at the corner half, expecting the doll to blink at her from the shadows, but it was just coats and shoes and dust. She tried to sleep, but the lullaby from the store played in her head, slow, broken off key. Every time she closed her eyes, she turned on every light in her apartment and waited for morning. The next day, she went back to the store. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. Something inside her demanded it. The doors were locked, a sign posted that said temporarily closed for renovation. She looked through the glass, nothing moved, no shelves, no lights, just darkness, like it had been drained completely. Then something strange, a note taped on the inside of the door in a child's handwriting. "Thank you, Mia, I am free now." Mia stepped back, her heart pounding. Emma, she turned and walked away for the first time in days, feeling something close to peace. She met the girl later in a small cafe. The girl's name was Kayla. They talked for hours about nothing, about everything, both still shaken, but somehow more alive. Kayla said, "I saw my own face in the doll, and I thought I was going to lose myself." Mia nodded and said, "I already had. But somehow, I came back." They laughed a little, not because it was funny, but because they needed to feel human again. Weeks passed, the store never reopened. People forgot, moved on, a new store opened in its place. Sometimes when Mia passed by, she saw faces in the glass, pressed against the window waiting. She never Went near it again. She took a job in a bookstore, quiet, calm, no late shifts, no toys. One evening she was closing up alone when she heard a familiar sound, a soft plastic clatter. She turned and saw a single doll sitting on the counter, button, eyes crooked. Smile, a tiny stitched mouth. Her heart dropped, but the doll did not move, did not speak, just sat there. She picked it up slowly and turned it over. A tag on its back read property of Emma. She smiled a sad smile and placed it on the shelf behind the counter. Then she locked the doors, turned off the lights, and stepped into the night. The air felt clean, the stars visible, the world finally hers again. Mia knew she would never forget what happened in that cursed Dollar Tree, but she also knew she survived not just the horror, but the part of herself that almost gave into it, and that was enough. The end.